Okay, so let's continue with our Kafka Python tutorial series. So in the last video, we have registered the schema into the schema registry. So basically, we are looking at this diagram. So in this diagram, we see we have the producer, we have the consumer, we have the Kafka cluster. So producer will produce the message, the consumer will consume the message, but producer should produce the message in form of a bytes only, right? Because Kafka need the message in a bytes. So if it is, so we need some kind of a serialization process here. As an example, let's suppose if we are producing message, if the message is in a string, we need to first convert string to byte. If the JSON, then JSON serialization. If AVRO, then AVRO serialization. Same case on the consumer side. So consumer will consume the data in form of bytes. Then it will deserialize so that the consumer can and customer can read that. Right. So to do the serialization or deserialization, we need the schema. If it is just a string, then we don't need the schema. But if it is a JSON, a particular data structure, we need the schema. So one option is that we can store the schema on the producer and the consumer side, but we need to maintain at two places. The other option is we can store at the schema registry. So in the last video, what we have covered is we created one file, schema client registry, and we have registered our schema, and we see we have registered our AVRO schema because currently redpanda don't support JSON schema. So if you click here, we have AVRO and protobuf because currently redpanda don't support JSON schema. Now we have registered the schema. So our schema is available on the schema registry. Now we will work on the producer application again. So till now we work let me open that. So in the first producer application, we are only sending the string message. So by default, serialization is happening, right? So we could not actually see the serialization behind the scene because because string serialization is by default. Then we see, okay, how to send the JSON message. So we have the JSON schema, right? So we created a JSON message, a kind of a dictionary. JSON means like in a Python term is a dictionary. So we created a dictionary and we send that. So to send that, we need to serialize it. And in the JSON, we are like converting into the dumps and the encode method. So we basically serialize it and then we send it, right? So, but in this case, our schema is hard coded, right? So that's why we are validating okay whether the schema is correct or not. So our schema is hard coded, but now we are not going to hard code the schema in the producer's application. We are going to store our schema in the schema registry using that code. But if the schema is stored into the schema registry and producer need to serialize the message, so to producer will serialize the message by reading the schema only. So how the producer is going to read the schema? So we are going to look into that. So let me close this. So let me open the JSON producer. Just copy paste the same code because almost all the code will be remain same. And let's create a new file called AVRO producer and just copy paste the code. So what are the three steps we are going to do? So let me go to bookmark. So the three step is in our generally producer application, what is happening? So if you see here, we are creating the topic and then we are producing the message. But now after creating the topic, we need to register the schema, right? So basically there are three steps. One is create the topic. One is then register the schema because schema is going to be registered on the topic level. So topic should be exist first. The topic will be created. Then we need to register the schema and then we will produce the message, right? So let's come here. So we don't need to hard code this schema here. So I can delete that, right? And class user is fine, user object is fine. So instead of the JSON producer, I can mention AVRO producer. All right, so everything is fine. So serialization will be different. So I can okay, let it as it is for the time being. I just update the class name. Now come to here. So we have the bootstrap server. We have this. So first thing is that we have to create the topic. So this is our create topic logic. And instead of this, it should be AVRO. Right. So topic has been created. Now we need to register the schema. So to register the schema, our code is already in the schema client registry. So let's import that from schema client registry, import schema client. So let me open that. So our class name is schema client, right? So we have this client. and let's create a client. Schema client is equal to schema client. And schema client is going to take few arguments because whenever we are creating, so it is going to take schema URL. So let's define that. Schema URL is equal to HTTP localhost 18081. So why 18081? Because in the Docker Compose, our schema registry URL is on the 18081. Okay, so we have defined that. So now it is going to take the schema URL. Okay, but next it accept. So it needs a topic name. So we already have the topic. So we will pass the topic. But next, so it needs the schema string. All right. So we don't have the schema string. So before that, let's create a schema. So it needs a schema string, right? Schema string. So we have the schema here schema.avsc. So let's create a string. So how to create a string? Just read the schema with open schema.avsc as AVRO schema, and then AVRO file, you can say, and AVRO schema is equal to AVRO file dot read. So now the schema string is available because when we read the file, so it will come as a string. So schema string is schema string, basically AVRO schema, and then we need to pass the schema type. The schema type is AVRO. So let's define the schema type. Schema type is equal to AVRO, and we are going to pass that schema type. Schema type, right? So we have passed the schema type, and then what we have to do, schema client dot register schema. So it is going to register the schema, and I can print that as well. So here I can put some else condition. Schema already registered. Print schema registered successfully. All right. Okay. So I am not covering this code because this already we have covered, like why we create this class, why we create this, sorry, why we create this function, why we create this function. So I am just like using this function to register the schema. So I am basically using this function. That's it. Okay, so that is done. Now, third step is we have to produce the schema. Sorry, produce the message. So to produce the message, this is our producer class. So which is P, and producer class is going to take two arguments. Now we don't need to pass the schema. We don't need to pass the schema because we are not hard coding our schema. So we are passing only bootstrap, topic, and server. Right. So then we are taking some inputs. Okay, enter your input, enter your name, first name, middle name, last name, age. Then we will create some user object. So user object is basically like this type, first name, middle name, last name. Then we are going to convert into a dictionary. So user to so p dot send message. All right. So we are going to convert into a dictionary, and this will go here, send a message. So this is not a JSON schema because we are publishing the AVRO thing. All right. So we don't need this JSON validation. Let's delete that. We don't need this thing. No, we need this thing. So let it be as it is. Okay, so what we did is before sending the message, so our message is like this, right? So this is our message. So this message will come here. Before sending our AVRO message, right, we need to convert into a bytes, right? So if it is a JSON message, we know how to convert in the form of a bytes. We know JSON or dumps. But if it is a AVRO message, I can't use JSON.dumps, right? Because I want to publish the AVRO message. I don't want to publish the JSON message, right? So I can't use like JSON.dumps, right? So what other option I have to use? Because this is AVRO. I don't know which library I have to use. So let's go to the official documentation. So under the client API, we already covered producer, consumer, admin, client, schema registry. So under the serialization API. So for the AVRO, so currently we are writing the producer code. So in the producer code, we have to do serialization. And to perform the serialization, we need the serialization API. So under the serialization API and serialization for the AVRO schema, and we have the serialization. So click on the serialization. So this is the class. So from confluent Kafka schema registry .avro and import AvroSerializer. So let's import that from confluent Kafka schema registry .avro import AvroSerializer. Okay, so we have imported that AvroSerializer, but so I have to use this AvroSerializer, right? So this value serializer, this is my custom function, lambda function, right? So instead of this, I need to use this class AvroSerializer, right? So this is a class AvroSerializer. So I have defined this class. This class needs a couple of arguments. So what all the arguments it needs? It needs the schema registry client. All right, so we need to pass the schema registry client. So we need to pass the schema. Sorry, not here. Where is my Avro? Something is wrong. Yeah. So we need to pass the schema registry client here. Right. And what else we need to pass? We need to pass the schema string. Right. So we need to pass the schema string. And what else? So toDict is none by default, conf is none. So we basically these two arguments we need to pass. Schema registry client and schema string. Okay, let's scroll down. Schema registry client is schema registry client instance. So do we have the schema registry client? So basically first we like here it is showing red. So when we initiate our producer class, then we are going to accept these two arguments. So let me define that self dot schema registry client is equal to schema registry client self dot schema string is equal to schema string. But in the producer class, we need to pass this argument, right? Okay. So we need to pass a schema registry client. What is schema registry client? Is this is the schema client? No, because this is my custom class. This is my custom class, and in this custom class, this is my schema registry client. That is schema registry client variable. So basically, what I need to pass is schema client dot schema registry client, and then I need to pass the schema string. So what is the schema string? Avro schema. So I have passed the Avro schema. All right, so that is done. Okay, now let's come up. So now what we need to, so instead of the JSON message, I can say Avro message, and instead of say, and not even Avro, Avro byte message, I can mention Avro byte message, because we need to convert Avro schema or Avro message into the byte message, right? Okay, so now we need to, so this is a class, all right? So this is a class, this is not a function. Like in our earlier case, we mentioned lambda. So let me again show you in the JSON producer. In the JSON producer, we are just like second, we are just calling this function value serializer, and we are passing whatever our message is, and then it is going to serialize that. But this is in because why we are basically calling that function, right? Lambda, we are calling that function. But in this case, lambda is a function. That's why we are calling it. All right. But in our case now, AvroSerializer is a class. AvroSerializer is a library class. So within the class, there should be some function, right? There should be some function which we want to call. So if we just do like this, value serializer, and then we can do, we pass some message. Let's suppose if we do like this, though it is going to be fail, because if you come here, we are like initiate our class. So we have initiated our class, so which is fine. Now you could see there is a call method. There is a call method. So they said we need to call like in this way, right? So we need to call in this way. So let me close that. So they said we need to call in this way. But let's suppose we call. So we are calling this function. So whenever we are like doing this bracket, so it means we are calling this class. And they say to call this class, we need object argument. So we have the object argument message, and we need to pass the CTX argument. So what is CTX? So let's see. So CTX is a serialization context. So it is a basically metadata information. So CTX is a serialization context. What is serialization context? So let's open it. So serialization context is a class. So we need to import that. So let's import that. From confluent Kafka dot serialization, right? And import serialization context. Okay. So now we have imported our serialization context. So second argument should be, because whenever we call this class, we need to pass two arguments. Because in the call method, first is the object. Object means the object instance to serialize, whatever the message we want to serialize. And the second object is serialization context. Okay. So it means second thing is the serialization context. But serialization context is again class. So let's see that. So serialization context is a class. So this serialization context needs two value. One is topic, one is field. So we can pass that because topic we already have. So I can mention, I can pass topic. So topic because we already have. Okay, what next? We need to pass a field. And what is field? Field is of message field. So what is message field? Click on it. So message field is a class which we need to import. So let's import that. And it is from the confluent Kafka.serialization.message field. So confluent Kafka.serialization import message field. So we have imported the message field. So now second thing is the message field. Second field is the message field, because if you come here, second field is the message field. The message field. So if you click here on the message field, so message field has two attributes, either key or either value. But we are going to serialize. So we are going to serialize the value, not the keys. All right. So message field dot value. That's it. So dot value. So our serialization concept is ready. So now it is going to convert into the byte message. So now it is going to produce. So we can say message sent, and we can print that as well. AVRO byte message. And let's try to run that. So these two libraries we don't need. JSON schema. All right. So let's try to run that. So our cluster is up, and we don't have currently topic. We don't have the schema registry. So what we want is, whenever we are going to run our code, so AVRO producer, first thing is that it should create the topic. Second thing is that it should register the schema, because in our code we are doing these things. So first thing is that it is going to create the topic. Second thing is that it is going to register the schema, and then it is going to like produce the message. And to produce the message is going to be produced, which is fine. And we need to serialize that. And in the serialization, we already mentioned schema registry client. So it means it is going to fetch the schema. It is going to fetch the schema from the schema registry only. All right. And which schema it needs to be fetched? So they have mentioned that, okay, I need to fetch this schema. And then we are calling that. And because, so this is just like a function name. And we need to serialize. What we need to serialize? Our actual message. So our actual message we need to serialize. And then based upon the documentation, because this while calling this function, it accepts two arguments. One is a message, one is the context CTX. So let's again go to the documentation, because while calling this function, it is accepting one argument object, and other is CTX. CT is a serialization context. So that's why we the second type is the serialization context, and it's take two argument topic and field. So serialization context take two argument topic and field. Field is of type message field. So that's why we import message field. Message field, and message field has only two values, key and value. So we have to serialize the value. So hopefully it will work, but if it give some error, we will see. So let's enter that. So see, we are getting some error, no module name fast AVRO. You remember when we are doing the schema client registry, right? So schema client registry, because we are only using confluent Kafka, and in our Pi project terminal, we already have the confluent Kafka. But when we run this, we get some error that request module is missing. Why we get some this error? Because if you look at this diagram, if you look at this, producer is going to fetch that, or we have to register the schema into the schema registry client. So to register that, it is basically using the REST APIs, POST APIs. And to use the POST API at the back end, they are using the request module. So internally, they are using the request module, and we don't have the request module available. So that's why we are doing, we installed that. So same case with here as well. So we are using AvroSerializer. So AvroSerializer at the back end, it is using the fast Avro module, but we don't have the fast Avro module. So we need to add that. So let's add that. Poetry add fast Avro. So why we are adding that? Because we get error. And why we get the error? Because we are using the Avro serialization. So fast Avro has been added. Okay. So let's run that. So Python Avro. So you could see topic has been created and schema has been registered successfully. Now it says, so first verify that. So let's go to that. So overview topics. So we have one topic created and there are no message. Schema registry. So schema has been created and which is of type AVRO. So our schema has been created, which is of type AVRO, right? Okay. Now we have to send some messages and we have to verify whether the message we are publishing, whether it's of type AVRO or not. So enter first name. Okay, Sumanshu. Enter last name. Let's suppose I don't have middle name. I don't have the middle name. Last name NAN. KNA. Enter your age. Okay, I have entered age. So it says message has been sent. And if you notice, message has been sent in the form of a bytes. Message has been sent in the form of byte and after serialize it. But let's verify whether we get the message here or not. So you could see our message has been published into the Kafka cluster. So let's expand it. Now, if you see here, value is of type AVRO. So earlier we are seeing here in the first module, we see here as a string or text. Then in the second module, when we publish the JSON message, then we see, okay, it's of type JSON. Now we publish the AVRO. So we see here AVRO and our message has been published here. Currently, we are not publishing any key, so just forget about that. We are going to publish in the coming videos. We are currently focusing on how to publish the message. Key is just adding some extra parameter. That's it. Very small video. So we have published that. And compression technique is uncompressed. We are going to cover in the coming videos. What are those compression techniques? Why we need to do this? And this is the schema topic which we are using. All right. So our message has been published. But let's do one thing. Let's do one thing. Let me close this. Let's do one thing. So let me add one more field. Self dot location is equal to location and location, enter your location. So now our schema has only these fields, four field, but whatever the message I designed, I am designing the message by containing five fields. So what is going to be happen behind the scheme? Whether I will get some error or whether the message is going to publish. If the message is going to publish, whether it is going to publish with the five fields or it is going to publish only with the four fields, what is going to be happen? So let's see. So Python Avro producer.py. So because schema already registered, topic already exists. So enter name, Sumanshu, middle name, no, Nankana, age. Now it is asking one more field, enter location. Let's suppose I enter India, right? So init positional argument location. 1 second, there is something wrong. Location. What is wrong? Okay, so here we need to pass that as well. location is equal to location. All right, because we are like passing five arguments. And yeah, user to dict. User to dict as well. We need to create a dictionary. So location is equal to user dot location. All right, so we have passed that. So let me start that. Python avro producer.py. First name Sumanshu, Nankana, 34, location India. So it says the message has been published. And let's go to the topic. And this is our second message. So you could see our message has been published, but the location field did not even come. All right. Even if you see both the message, location field even did not come. So why this is happen? Why this happen? Uh, Even though we set the location here, we set the location here, and our message contains the location, but the location did not get published. Why this is happen? The reason is because of our schema, and that is the beauty of the schema, so that no one is going to publish some bad messages kind of thing. We have to maintain the structure, we have to maintain the schema of the data which is going to publish, right? And even though we are creating a message with the five fields here, all right, but when it is doing the serialization, so how it is doing the serialization? So it is doing the serialization by reading the schema, and by reading the schema, it found only four fields. So it has serialized only four fields, and it leaves the remaining fields. So only four fields has been serialized, and it has just wiped out the another field, and it converted to the byte message, and only that four field byte message has been published. All right. So that's why we have to incorporate the schema and in the schema registry. All right. So we have covered how to like publish the message, and the consumer code is very much similar. Instead of the AvroSerializer, we are going to use the Avro deserializer. And but how to do that? We are going to, because like see, if you noticed here, we publish the message in form of a bytes. Right. So in the Kafka, uh, now there is one question as well. You said, like I am saying, I have published this message in form of a bytes, but when I go to in the redpanda, I am able to see in form of a like a proper Avro. So why this is? Because like in the UI now, in the UI, like UI is doing the deserialization. So if you just forget about the UI now, within the Kafka, it is stored in the form of a bytes only. But we are seeing the UI to just to verify our message has been published correctly. So UI is doing the deserialization for us. But just forget about the UI. So you can consider at the back end, and this in this format. So producer send this kind of message. So bytes, because we have the B here. And in the Kafka, so the whole message has been stored. So this message has been stored, right? And when the consumer is going to consume this message, so when the consumer is going to, how the consumer will going to know, like this x00 is what, x00 is what, x00 is what is this S1 what is this D, what is this? So how the consumer is going to know, right? So consumer has to deserialize it. But what is the key, what is value, what is like how it is going to deserialize it, that, right? So because we are serializing the value, not the key. So how it is going to serialize that? So what the consumer will do is, consumer will fetch the schema from the schema registry. Basically, while when we like do the serialization, Avro serialization, we mention the schema registry client. Same thing when we would do the deserialization, we have to mention the schema registry client, so that consumer will get the schema from the schema registry, and then it is going to deserialize it. So on the consumer side, we are not going to see this message, we are going to see our actual message. But consumer consume this message, we have to deserialize that. Why we have to deserialize that? Because if you are not going to deserialize that, you will get this message, and it is of no use. All right, because what you are going to do, this is of like no use, right? Even if you have to do some kind of pre-processing, All right, so you have to store in database or you have to do some kind of pre-processing. You have to first deserialize it, right? So that we are going to cover in the next video, how to deserialize it. So that's it. That's the end of the video. Thank you.